Imagine this. You wake up on September 29th, a beautiful fall morning. You go to the kitchen to make breakfast. You hear a notification on your phone. It's from Zuckbook and InstaZuck. PreSonus, now acquired by Fender, has announced their release of an update to their audio software. Due to you being a nerd, you feel inclined to leave a comment about this new version, Studio One 6. When it comes to software updates, typically it's something that people are happy about. And in the case of music creation software, it's new possibilities for creative features or better iterations of things that are already implemented in the software. So how have the people reacted in the first couple weeks of the launch of Studio One 6? Well, let's take a look. So the question remains, is the upgrade for Pro 5 to 6 worth $150? $150 for the upgrade, $165 for 1 year of Sphere, which I assume includes the upgrade, plus more. What to do? Is it better to do the monthly plan for Studio One to get all the features or buy the Pro for $399? Considering that Sphere is $165 and this upgrade is $150, I'm considering Sphere. I mean, I'll get so much more. What's the catch? I am a Studio One Pro owner since Studio One version 3, bought the updates to 4 and 5, now there's V6, another $149 what I want to pay. Updates are not free. Good. But there's also Sphere. It is cheaper than the V6 update and has more. What exactly is the difference? Is it true that the update to V6 is more expensive than Sphere? So one of the big things that people have been talking about is price, of course. Compared to other pieces of software out there like FL Studio or Ableton's Live, how much things cost are different. Historically for Studio One, typically every 2 years a new version is released, and if you own fully one of the versions of Studio One, you get a discounted upgrade for $150 roughly. This is what I did recently from version 5 to version 6, and I've been doing that all the way since version 2 personally. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this Sphere thing they're talking about, basically PreSonus has 2 different ways that you can acquire Studio One, either by buying a perpetual license or they have a subscription service where you can, for $15 a month, get access to Studio One and a whole bunch of other goodies. Myself personally, I don't really care for the extra things that Sphere offers, and I personally hate subscription programs. I don't like the idea of my access to the software hinging on my credit card. But that said, the extra benefits from Sphere might make a lot of sense to you, and you might be strapped for cash, so a subscription service for a bit does the trick. The only other thing to really add to this topic was this comment. I see a lot of people debating between the subscription and the upgrade, but to me an equally important question is, will PreSonus ever consider a discounted Sphere for those that already own a Studio One license? At least on my account it is asking to charge full price. Sphere looks interesting, but the value per dollar shoots way down if you are already paying $150 every 2 years for the Studio One upgrade. I'm sure a bunch will say, well, just get the sub and forget the upgrade. But the difference is that I want to be able to pause a subscription without losing access to my DAW. I agree with this comment. For someone that wants to perpetually own Studio One, but get the perks of Sphere, a discounted Sphere would be nice. But I mean, hey, PreSonus, they gotta keep the lights on somehow, so yeah, I can understand why they might want full price. An LFO integrated to be mapped to whatever parameter third party or not, like in Ableton, would be great. I saw this was requested and voted really hard in the forum and wished that was implemented in this major upgrade. We'll wait for a revision. Big congratulations, it's a great update overall. The absence of Dolby Atmos integration is very disappointing. I was hoping for this update because I love Studio One, but am forced to switch to another DAW that allows immersive audio mixing. I'll upgrade when I see some surround sound. #Atoms. Still no surround/Atmos mixing. Without surround, it's kinda useless. Nice, but I was expecting 5.1 mixing. Can we do live looping as in Ableton? If no, there's no update worth it, sorry. Have you guys added ambisonics yet? If not, I am not upgrading to 6. I'll stay with version 5. No Atmos, crying emojis. So compared to previous updates, Studio One 6 is kind of more of a quality of life improvement, and there were some features that basically just ended up being more polished. Nothing as groundbreaking like the Dolby Atmos support for surround sound mixing. I personally really like the quality of life improvements, like the video editing track, so much nicer to work with and very handy for a recent project I had. But I can understand the people that are frustrated that there's no surround sound mixing, because if that's something that you have to do in a professional capacity, yeah, no, I would want Dolby Atmos too. Studio One's a great piece of software. As for those Ableton adjacent questions, Ableton, which is the company, their software Live, is a piece of music software that's really focused on live performance, which Studio One is now kind of. In version 5, they introduced a performance page, which I personally don't know a lot about because I haven't had to use Studio One for live performance. So they've started to offer something, but I know that it doesn't cover the same amount of ground that Live does for that kind of functionality. I don't know about you guys, but to me, Studio One 6 is amazing. Phenomenal job to everyone involved. No, we don't have native Atmos, but there's a binaural panner in the mixer, so there's hope in that arena. I'm not complaining, and I'm a Dolby Atmos certified engineer. I'm sure we'll get it one day, and there are workarounds. I've seen a lot of people writing off Studio One because one feature here and there, and I don't think that's fair to the team. So anyway, good job, folks. Just downloaded and set up Studio One 6. Gotta say, I absolutely love it. It's the same but better. Mixer page is awesome with the new panning and stuff, and loads I haven't got my head around yet, but essentially it is love at first sight. Thank you, Personas, for a great product. I am not happy with Personas/Fender. I was not going to spend any more money on upgrading from 5 to 6, but now I have watched the videos on the new features, I am feeling serious fear of missing out. Fixing the panning was one thing, but adding lyrics, better video integration, and everything else? Why are you doing this to me? I was very happy with V5 Pro, but now I'm going to know I'm missing out on great features until I shell out the cash. My wife is not going to be happy. I don't envy anybody that has to develop audio software. The sheer amount of things that people want audio software to do is absolutely mind-boggling. Whether you just want a nice place to edit audio for a podcast, or you are mixing a recording from a band, working on audio for a film, scoring a movie, making beats, or wanting to use software in a live performance capacity. The list just goes on. I don't know what convinced 15-year-old me to choose Studio One 2. I think I'm going to give credit to Joe Gilder with Hair and Presonus' marketing about the drag and drop functionality. I just remember thinking it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And it has been really cool growing up with Studio One, whether I was creating music or learning how to edit audio or learning mixing or mastering. I'm still enjoying using Studio One to this day. Now, after everything we've gone over in this video, is Studio One something that you want? This is the part of the video that it's very obvious I haven't been sponsored. For those of you that are using a previous version of Studio One, whether you are still using version 5 or 3, for the time that I've spent with version 6 in the past couple weeks since its recent launch, I think it's a solid update. That said, do you need this update? No. I personally believe if the piece of software you're using works for what you need it for, and there's nothing impeding you from doing your work in the software, honestly, to the guy that's using version 3 and it's doing everything that he needs it to do, to that I say, Studio One version 3 is a great piece of software and it's super cool that he's using it. I really enjoyed version 5 of Studio One. It did pretty much everything I needed it to do, and I didn't really need any of the things in version 6. That said, it has been quite fun to upgrade and see the changes. So to owners of previous versions, it's entirely optional. Now, to those of you that are curious about Studio One that have been using a different piece of audio software, because of my personal experience, I don't think I can give the best answer to you because I've literally been growing up with Studio One, not a different piece of software. I can't think about Studio One from the perspective of a longtime Cubase user or a longtime Pro Tools user. In fact, when I was starting to use Studio One, the target cross-grade demographic was Pro Tools users. And I have read comments of people that have switched over and have enjoyed using Studio One. So I can only imagine that it's gotten better over time as Studio One has become more developed. So is Studio One worth the cross-grade? I'm going to say, for most applications, yes. For general audio editing, mixing, mastering, recording, the drag and drop functionality, it works great. The only demographic I'm not sure about would be Ableton Live users. As a user of Live, Live is a bit more unique in its setup versus a lot of other pieces of audio software. The Ableton Live demographic is a demographic that if personas can convince that they're cool too, would be mind-blowing. But for where things are at currently, there's just a lot of things that Ableton Live can do that Studio One can't, and vice versa. So for me, that's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch evolve over time. Studio One has become a lot friendlier place for people that are just starting getting into the world of audio editing and music creation. It is significantly more streamlined compared to version 2 for just getting started. So my opinion of ease of use has changed dramatically, and it is so much easier to get started with Studio One now. There's a lot of newer features that cater to a wider variety of uses that you might be interested in. So for the most part, Studio One is a great starting option. That said, again, hashtag not sponsored. If you have friends that are into audio software or music creation and they know a thing or two, I would personally recommend for a better experience to get the software that they are using. This will give you a bit of an advantage because anything that they've figured out, it'll be much easier for them to teach you. And it would be easier to collaborate on projects if you're using the same piece of software. But if you are looking for relative ease of use and a good amount of resources, Studio One has become a fantastic option. So yeah, that's that. That's how people were reacting to the release of Studio One 6, and you were able to get some of my personal thoughts on the value of Studio One now. I hope this has helped you form a slightly deeper opinion on Studio One, and that this video has helped you in some way. So yeah, with all that said, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.